please help me welcome Sharyn. Thank you. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Welcome, guests. Good morning. I found this magazine really interesting that Time put out, The Science of Families. It's a special edition, and the whole magazine's on families. Well, guess who has just the creative family that could fit into some of these pigeonholes? I was able to do a speech with this information. When I was born, I was the first child my parents had. They had two more little girls. They wanted each of us to be a boy. When I was born, they got me girl clothes. It was really enlightening for me to always wear pink. Even as an older child, I always wanted my stuff in pink. My sister that came along 17 months later, well, they didn't seem to like her as much. Maybe because they knew me 17 months longer than they knew her. But she got along just fine. They dressed her in blue the whole time. At least it wasn't boy clothes. It was like girls' dresses that were blue, and I always had the pink on. So how did this shape our psyche? Well, I always knew that being the firstborn, my parents would give me the first choice. But they also started thinking of falling back on me as the most responsible. So, well, my little baby sister was born 9 years later. And she came along so late that she was the precious little baby. And she was the one that everybody wanted to gravitate to because she was so cute. Well, as time went on, her cuteness developed into a wonderful need to perform for everybody. So when we go to my grandparents, they'd always save 5 minutes at the end so that she could dance for them or sing. And I was like, oh God, this is so embarrassing. I was 10 years old and my mother was showing my sister off like she was a pet monkey. Oh, I was embarrassed. My sister grew up fast and I watched her quite a bit. She was really a fun little person to know, but when she got aggravated me, she would call my mother at work and say, Sharyn is doing this to me, you need to come home. And my mom would come home and she would say, I know Sharyn was not doing that to you, so stop calling me at work. Now when my middle sister Susan would take care of her, she would start screaming and she would call my mother at work. My mother would say, give me Susan, let me talk to her on the phone. What are you doing to Cheryl? I'm not doing anything to her. Well, if she said you were doing something, you were doing something. So she would come home in a bad mood and she would get on to Susan for being mean to Cheryl. So all the time that Cheryl was growing up, she thought of me as being really, really sweet to her and Susan being somewhat mean to her because of the way the reactions were played out in the family. But really, Cheryl was a fun person to raise because she was so entertaining. And then as we got older, she wanted to do more things. She wanted to become a journalist. And my sister Susan was known as being extremely creative. She was making all types of beautiful ceramics and pictures and all kinds of things. And I was still the responsible one. And so I went on with my life, and my baby sister said goodbye to me when I got married, and we hugged, and we were going to miss each other. It turns out she came and spent a lot of time at my apartment, and we got to get closer even more so. There's something about sisters. You know, even though you have a friend that you consider to be your sister, biological sisters are a little different because you spend so much time with them. From the minute you get home from school to the minute you go to bed, you're with your sister. You share everything with your sister, things you wouldn't tell other people. So we really kept a strong bond between us. Now, my sister Susan, the middle child, is considered the artist because she's had her own gallery and she's done wonderful things. And the little performer, well, she is now an anchor woman for WSAV. So she takes care of the news and produces 4 shows. Me, I'm still the responsible one. You know, it wasn't so bad to be the responsible one, even though I did other things. But the thing is that now that my parents are 80-something years old, and I'm the responsible one, guess who gets to find them a place to live? A place where they're happy, a place where they're taken care of. All of that is on me. Why? Because the artist is no longer talking to us. I think she's had it with our family. The creative one that went on into broadcasting, she is doing fine, but is under a great deal of stress with her divorce and her children, the placement of where they're going to live. Child custody can be very difficult. Being the responsible one can be very difficult. They think that if I don't find my mother a home, now that she's being evicted, that she'll come live with me. But I really don't want her to come live with me because she can be really mean. She can be nice, but only when you're doing exactly what she wants you to do. I saw her yesterday when I was packing up her apartment. She was real quiet. I thought we had a place for her to go, but she decided that she doesn't want to go there. She decided this yesterday. She wants to have her own apartment. She has $300 a month to spend on financing an apartment for herself each month. $300. That includes utilities. It's hard to find something like that because not many apartments are Section 8, and the ones that are Section 8, it takes 6 months to a year to get into. So here I am. I'm dealing with my family and also dealing with how my parents shaped me in their later years of life. I liked being the responsible one all my life, but you know what? It makes you responsible, and I feel responsible for my parents. If anybody has a spare room or something that they'd like my mother to come live in, anything will do. A little place to take your washer and dryer out of, that would be cool. Yeah, I have to be responsible. If you have that, though, seriously, just pin it down and I'll take it.